Okay. Testing. 1, 2. All right. We got volume now. You can hear anything or you can't hear anything. I know you forgot to add the T. So, yeah, I forgot to plug in the USB. I switch around back and forth on this stuff and I forget what I'm doing. I have to have this unplugged if I'm using it over there because everything runs through his. If I'm running a USB, then that doesn't work over there, and that's where I was last located. I have to get rid of that because it's annoying me because it's creating a feedback hiss. So it sounds boomy. Can't be avoided. Either that or I'm going to get feedback from this microphone. Oh. Alrighty. So just thought I'd jump on here. I was going to talk a little bit about chemtrails. Only because Daphne and I had experienced something a while back that was rather interesting. And one of the points of interest, well, there was a couple things. There was an anomaly that showed up. Not quite sure what it is, or it's hard to tell. But I had seen about a few years ago, whatever, some videos of which appeared to be disbursement taking place in the sky. Initially, it looked like a jet, and then eventually it just disappeared, meaning that it was a it was a device sent up in order to release these chemtrails or these materials in the air for whatever reasons. And we're going to briefly, well, I'm going to briefly go over that a little bit. This is not something that's been anything that I've gotten into as far as looking at until recently. After that experience, of course, we see chemtrails in the sky every single day, especially here in California, constantly crisscrossing. But this situation or this experience that we had was completely different from what you normally see. So it was a device that was sent up, which was remote, to release a payload, whatever that payload was. But the refraction in the sky, as it set in the sky, was very luminous, and it was sparkling as it was being released. And then there was a couple anomalies that occurred during this time. So I want to briefly go over that and talk a little bit about that. And anybody who's interested, go ahead and post within the comment section here, within the chat, about things that you know that are health related, that can be helpful to other people, and things that we could be, if we can, if one is able to obtain, health aids, as it would be, in order to combat, at least try anyhow, some of this stuff that's being released. It's pretty toxic. So how's the sound out there? Is this good? Now I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to go ahead and turn this on. This is better. Okay, I know that it's better, but it's probably picking up feedback. And I'm going to try to adjust this so that I can actually use this because it's not so boomy. And the EQ is a little bit more flat, which makes it a lot better. So So far, so good. I'm going to go ahead and leave this on. Let me know how the sound is before we get started here, because we have pictures. So I'm going to bring these pictures up and I'm going to go through that. But first, we're just going to, well, at least I'm going to go ahead and address the potential chemicals that are being released. I'm going to get something to drink. So everybody, whoever's here, if you can, sign in to the chat and just check in and say hello. This is an open discussion, and I'm just using this subject because it was something that Daphne and I had experienced, and I think it's an important issue. When you go online, you still see it as being conspiracy theory. It's such a ridiculous, it's so ridiculous anymore that everything that is so obvious is still presented as a, conspiracy theory. It's just so ridiculous. But I think this is important to at least address so that we can try to take care of our health as best we can. So at first it was high-pitched feedback then, but the sound's better now. Yeah, I was a little bit too close to the speakers. That's the reason why I moved the microphone back. It seems to be better here. But yeah, when I take off that, it gets really boomy, and it just sounds terrible. So that's the reason why I have that on. But if I'm too close up here, I still hear a ringing. Can't be helped. Well, maybe it can. Hold on. Let me turn this down a little bit. Now, let me know if you can still hear me, because the levels look good. So if I turn this down here, this will help. It's hard to tell what's going on the other end. I can look at my levels, but sometimes that doesn't tell me a whole lot. So it's a little bit lower. But yeah, that's gotten rid of the feedback. So I can get closer to the microphone and not worry about that. So let me know again how the sound is right now, because I want to be able to proceed without being concerned about the sound anymore. Hi, everyone. Again, for those who are listening, if you could sign in to the chat and say, hey, let me know that you're there, and we can get started. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go get something to drink. For those who are joining us here, you get yourself something to drink or whatever, and I will be right back. Okay? All right. I'm going to get something to drink, like I said. Okay. So, all right. I'm going to go ahead and begin. So we're going to go through some pictures here. And first, we're going to take a look at some of the toxins and heavy metals and stuff like that that they've been releasing in the air, just so you're familiar with this. This is what's been documented, and plus there's other stuff that's not documented. Heavy metals such as mercury, lead, aluminum, copper, and barium. We've seen this within the snow, some toxic fungus, and there's petroleum byproducts, solvents, acids, herbicides, fungicides, bacteria. We've seen that. Mosquito killers, nanotechnology. We've seen some of that. Nanotechnology, some pretty weird stuff in the snow, in fact. Chemical industry byproducts, old Agent Orange and old DDT. Chemicals from World War I, World War II, experimental chemicals, and other unknown chemicals. There also, this is something recent, there also has been a release of vaccines within the sky. It's just nuts. It's nuts. We give no consent to any of this. This needs to be shut down yesterday. This has been around since the 50s, as far as I know. As far as chemtrail disbursement, as far as all this stuff. So let's get into some of these pictures here and what Daphne and I had experienced. Daphne was driving, and I was just taking pictures randomly, trying to capture this when it was happening. And there was things in the way. Now this picture here, we were in the Sprouts, or we were in a parking lot, and Daphne took this picture. The majority of the pictures were taken on the road. We were heading southbound on Sierra Avenue in Fontana, California. We were coming down from Lytle Creek, and see if I can, we'll come back to this. Okay, so let me see here. All right. You have to give me a second here. I have to figure out what I'm doing. Oh, all right. So I guess let's go to this. This is a big blown up one version of it. I was talking about that there was a device sent up. Initially, it looked like a jet. And some of you may have seen this before, at least seen videos of it. And it looked like a jet that was dispersing a great deal of chemtrail. And it started to do weird things. I seen within the chemtrail there was a sparkling taking place, and it had to do with the refraction of the sun at the time because of so-called sunset, which is a photosphere, by the way. Sun is a photosphere, also known as a frequency modulator, also known as a transformer of frequency and voltage. It's not a big fiery ball in the sky, and it's not that far away. We are under a dome, under a firmament. Okay, so it started to do this, what you're seeing here. It started to disperse, and then it started to expand out like you can see here, and then it just disappeared. It was a remote device sent up, initially looked like, or interpreted as a jet, because it had it looked like a jet, and then it just started to expand out, and then it just gone. So it was a remote device sent up to disperse a payload. What's in that payload? Well, there was all kinds of things sparkling in it. So definitely heavy metals, probably some of those which were mentioned here prior to showing these pictures. So that what you see over here right underneath it, okay, I'm not quite sure what's underneath that, but there are some anomalies that occurred here. Okay, see if I can go back to this. Let me turn this one on. Let me see about. Okay, there we go. Wrong. All right. Nope. No, I had something going on here before. No, I don't. Anytime you're ready. Sheesh. All right, this is the picture I wanted to get to first. All right, you can see this. This is pulled back. This is the original picture. It's been cropped. But underneath it, you can see a street light, right? Now here's where the anomaly comes into the picture. Now, when using digital devices, sometimes you will have artifacts that occur, meaning certain parts of the picture can, depending on how you're taking them and how quickly the movement is taking place, there's parts of the picture that can be not there at times. But usually what you'll see is part of it being there, not completely gone. And I'm saying that to explain this. Looking at this light post there, you can see that it's a singular light. And these are the light posts that existed within the straight going down Sierra Avenue. That's what they look like, okay? And then there was some that were dual like that. But that was in the parking lot. You've seen that in the parking lot. We'll go back to that picture in the Sprouts parking lot that Daphne had taken. You can see the lights there. They're dual lights, okay? But this is the way that they looked, like this. And you can see there's a post, and then there's an extension to the light with the conduit, right, running to the light itself. All right. You see here. All right. Let's see if I can. There it is. Okay, this is the anomaly. One of the pictures of the anomaly that occurred. Okay, as you can see, that is not the same light as this. And of course, I'm moving down the street as I'm taking these pictures, so there is a blur effect. But this is not the same thing at all. This looks completely different. All right. And when you blow this up, you can see in the center, it's very a bright white light, and it has like a ring around that right here. This right here, that's coming off. I know it would be helpful if I had a pointer. That way you can see what I'm trying to explain. But if you look to the left, you can see there looks like a conduit extending, right? As it would be to connect to a pole or something, if you would to refer to this as being a street light, okay? However, that is inconsistent with the bigger picture. And I'm going to show you that here in a second, see if I can, like I said, I'm not sure what I'm doing here. What is which is which? Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'll just leave that on. Okay, let's get rid of that for a second. Okay, so there we go. It gives you, this is a pulled back view. And as you can see, you can look at the blurring effect, right? With the picture, the trees, right? That gives you an indication of the blurring effect, right? but the chemtrail itself is very clear, meaning there, you don't see any of that because it's stationary in the sky and blah, 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 blah. But you can see the effect of the blurring effect that's taking place with the trees. So you have to take that in consideration. But it's not so much where it's obscured, right? You can still tell what it is, and you can still see the shape of it. It's not so much that it's stretching itself out, right? Not like the light that you see beneath here. In fact, this light here, I didn't see it when I was taking the picture. Okay? There was no street light there. Okay? And this, to the left there, let me see if I can go back up to this one up here. I don't know if I can remember which ones I do. Which one I did. Come on. Stop it, please. Up. Remember, that's what the street lights look like. Okay. Never mind. I'll get back to it. But that's what you see coming off the left. It's not going to a pole. That's because actually that line is connected to if you look to the right there, you can see that there is a relay electrical tower that is bringing electricity in, because there's homes in that area. And so that's what that is. That's what that line is. And it's also connected to the clouds or the chemtrail disbursement that's in the sky. That's part of that. So there actually is no line. That's an optical illusion. That is not a conduit. And obviously you don't see any pole that it's connected to. All right. And like I said, I didn't see these or see that while I was taking a picture. All right. See here. Here's another picture of that light. Now you can tell that's not a street pole. You would see something. And also here in the sky over here, if you look at a 35-degree angle from the left straight up, there was something else in the sky that was really weird. I have no idea what it was. And this, as you can see, there is light coming out from underneath it, or out from within it. Daphne and I were looking at this, and we were thinking it was potentially a portal of some sort. Either way, like I said, it occurred quickly, and it was caught on camera, but it wasn't there while I was taking pictures, as far as I know. I didn't see anything. It was after the fact. And there was stuff that was around when the chemtrail was being released. There was something there also, and it kind of came in and went out. And what caught my eye about that was there was a sparkling that was taking place within the atmosphere when this thing was dumping its payload, and stuff started to show up that I thought, curious. And then again, this right here, this anomaly. Okay, there's another picture of it, right? Pull that out, and you got that. Let's see if I can get rid of this. There's a bigger blow up of it. So, very curious. A tractor beam, like it's beaming something down. I don't know. But it's definitely vertical, which would, have one come to that conclusion, because, we're taking the pictures and we're moving this way as in taking a picture. And so, but the light is down. It's not, it's not anything that's happening with the camera. So yeah, it is very interesting. Definitely something going on there. I, you know, this world is so silly, and it's so silly. It really is. Whatever's transpiring, what's happening, um, I have to say, I have to say that there's no way that they can do all that they can try to do. Create all kinds of chaos here within our political system, blah 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 blah, in the world, all this upheaval, all this insanity. Um, and mess with the skies and create all these illusions within this reality field that we're in, it's still not going to keep things from being manifest. It's still not going to keep things from um, taking place that's intended to happen. So again, the reason for this is, if anything at all, is to be encouraging. Also take in consideration that these things are going on. So your spiritual practices, your meditation, your diet, things that you do, the main thing is to be within a state of joy. Try to find joy as much as you can, wherever you can. Try to, when you're not, most of the time for myself, the way I feel physically, I have to practice. And sometimes it's difficult for me to practice. What I mean by practice joy. Practice these things. Put things in front of me, create things, do things, regardless of how I feel, in order to lift my spirit. And I would encourage everybody to do that. Just don't do it because, you feel like you want to do it, or I feel good. And, for me, the test has really been when things are absolutely shitty as all can be, and look to overcome that situation, and knowing that I am Monad. I am not Randy. I'm experiencing myself as Randy. And through all the things that Randy experiences, it's been, a thing, been heavy. And finding within that moment where I can trickle in regardless of whatever I may be going through. A lot of suffering, has transpired, and then squeezing through that suffering, um, suffering really holds no benefit. It doesn't. And for those who have suffered physically and had physical elements, if it was something that was passed down to you genetically or whatever, you understand what I mean. It's important to be able to rise above your situation. And it's always momentarily. It's always in the moment, that you're in. And it's not about how long it's going to last or anything. It's just finding yourself in that moment, because it's always now, right? Time doesn't exist. It's an illusion. So within that illusion, you find yourself as the consistency of who and what you really are. And if it's just a little bitty spark of that being ignited, that means a whole lot. It means a great deal. And what do I mean about that? Well, it means a great deal for you, but it also means a great deal for others, because you can find yourself in a very difficult, extremely difficult situation, and you're the one that is able, because you practiced being in that moment, that when that difficult situation really comes and it's about other people around you, that you're able to control that moment through your ability to hold your space. And that's not something you just do. You have something that you have to learn to do. And so I encourage that, to practice, especially when you feel like not doing anything, find something. And for those who have pets, they can be extremely assisting. I mean, a dog You know, not all dogs, not all cats, but there are those that have come into your life purposely that can lift your spirits and just allow you to practice love. You know, I'm thankful for Dorian, who had came into my life 5 years ago, 5+ years ago, and he's taught me a lot, and he's also been he's acted as a guardian for me. And the more I learn about the psychology of cats, the more I understand why he does what he does. You know, and maybe we'll talk about that sometime. How significant and how powerful, you know, these animals that come into our life to assist us, how what they're really doing, that we're maybe not be aware of. And so there's a place that comes out of that within you of thankfulness, you know, and everything is a process. You know, my sense of thankfulness has been a process throughout my entire life, learning more about myself and things that are around me, and the intimacy that allows for that in-depth understanding, making yourself available, you know, to yourself and to things around you in an authentic way. If I'm going on and on about this, it's because I'm first speaking to myself. I do that a lot. So, yeah, the catalyst for all of it, the catalyst for all of it is love. It really is. I guess I suppose you could say I've been preaching this for, I don't know, 15 years. And the catalyst is love for everything. It is the trump card. You know, whenever, when you've played everything, that is the thing that overcomes every single time. It's what holds all things together. It's the reason why we do what we do. It is the catalyst for everything. And it's the most challenging thing for us within manifest reality under these conditions is to bring love truly where it doesn't seem to be, where it seems absent. It's the catalyst for everything. It's what brings healing. It what allows for things to move to the next stage. It's all about that. It really is. As cliche as it may sound for some people, because a lot of people like, you know, like entertaining themselves with a lot of different stuff, and that's okay. But I know it's always full circle coming back to that reality, because once you experience yourself here the way that you are outside of here, you cannot know anything other than that as being the most significant and relevant thing that there is. And I'm talking again about love. And you can call it unconditional, you can call it whatever you would like, but I'm looking at the aspect of the highest, most transcendent aspect of what we are. And again, that which holds all things together. It's the reason why creation is. There is no other reason for why creation is. We expand through joy and love, not hardship. Hardship can teach you, it can focus you, but it's not necessary. Yeah, well, I'm wearing a couple reminders, which I've been, ever since I put them on, they never came off except for today. I took them off today in order to take a shower that I hadn't been able to do for 3 years. So that was interesting. But you are monad. You are not part of the monad. You are monad. Boots on the ground. You're multidimensionally experiencing self, meaning there is really no past, present, and future. That is what is referred to, or what I refer to as being states of wavelengths, vibration, oscillation, slower and faster oscillation. This is in reference to frequency. That's what frequency is. It means pulse wave at being able to measure it, how fast or slow. That's what frequency is, you know. Hence the term frequency. What is the frequency of the pulse? Right? So within the time construct, we have, slower oscillation, which you can refer to as past, and then move up. As you move up, this is like moving up in the future. Okay? But there are specific points of oscillation. That's how the time matrix works. So it's all occurring, just like this is a keyboard that's a fixed construct, so is the time matrix. It's occurring, all these so-called past, present, and future lives is occurring all at one time. For lack of terms, I'll use that expression. It's all occurring simultaneously. That's a better way to say it. So, yeah. So within the multidimensional, quote unquote, the multidimensional framework, that's how we're experiencing self. So some of it is human form, some of it's not human form, some of it's, well, just about everything that you can think of. Different forms. Because, form is the way that we are able to experience ourselves in a way with greater respect for all life. There's this, especially in this world, there's this elitist idea. Sorry, I'm going to use that expression, but it's kind of annoying when you know the truth, where the human is the most important thing. And it's not. Because we're all things. We are experiencing ourselves as all things, not in this incarnation. This is human, what you would call human, or humanoid, whatever. The point is, simultaneously, within the construct, I'm experiencing myself as different things, and you are too. And it's not all human. Again, the reason for this is because there is no limitation to the process of creation. The creative imagination is built upon the experiencing of self differently, and within that experiencing of self differently, perceiving things from a greater perspective. And then the experiencing of self within these different embodiments, human and not human, is a way to understand. For lack of terms, I'll use the word understand. People use the word understand, whatever. It's just semantics. You know what I mean. It's kind of, some of this language we use is kind of silly to begin with, but what's important is knowing how to relate to something, and becoming that embodiment of it creates a greater respect for it, and therefore a greater respect for all life. The more time I spend with my cats and honor, just as an example, and honor that, the more I understand about them, and I'm able to move into um, their space and their consciousness enough to be able to be sensitive to them in the way that they're relating and communicating and sensing things around them. And I find that very fascinating and exciting to know that. And I've been allowed to be able to see these things, to be able to spend time with plants and things that if you have a yard or whatever, or a terrace or something where you can grow, and you get past the idea of growing it and you start to want to understand it. At least for me, that's been the case. How is it communicating? How is it relating within the environment that it is? How is it connecting to me and everything else around me? And having the ability to treat things the way that you would want to be treated universally. And that's a process, the idea, which was stated here about loving yourself to paraphrase, loving yourself can be a difficult process, because there's a lot of things that happens here and a lot of conditioning and programming and everything like that. And the way you believe things and the trauma or certain things that you may have gone through that affect the way that you're broadcasting internally. And it's important to understand that's going on, but it's only important if it empowers you to know that's what's going on. Because then it actually puts you back into the driver's seat. If you've been broadcasting things internally through, whatever trauma, whatever it may be, okay? And then you understand that. And it's not a condemnation thing. It's, I'm making all these mistakes and I'm blowing that, No, it's about empowerment, because you realize, wait a second, I really am in control, And regardless of my circumstances do not dictate who I am. This is a process for me as I am experiencing myself differently. I chose to do this. And it could be even things of lifetimes that's passed down, quote unquote, right? As we referred to earlier. But knowing always that this is a process, and it's not about living up to a standard. It's about freeing yourself in the process. And sometimes, most of the time, at least my experience has been, those things don't go away that quickly. In some cases, they have. They've immediately disappeared, and then some things hold on for a very long time. But never beat yourself up over that, ever. It's understanding that's putting you in a place of understanding, of empowerment, because you are in control over it. And you can change it, and it's always in the moment. And let me just emphasize this again, because these are the things I need to hear. Your love, your joy, is the catalyst for those things being healed. And like I said, it is the catalyst for everything. It's the reason why we come into manifest reality to begin with. How we just courageously jump into and are challenging ourselves to do these things. It doesn't make it easy when we're going through it. It can be extremely difficult. And there can be a lot of outcomes that are very, very difficult to go through, but we are capable and we're able. And this is ultimately for the benefit of all life. It's learning more about self within various conditions that we would normally never experience. I used the expression here recently that Source is playing hide and go seek from itself. We come into these fields that are been created for the purpose of forgetfulness intentionally, in order to challenge self because under any other circumstances or conditions that are not like this, we wouldn't have the same potentiality or opportunity to be able to create something new. So wherever we're at, whatever we're doing, whatever the state is, know that you are in the driver's seat. You are the captain of the helm. You are boots on the ground. And this experience that we're having is but a blink of an eye. We're in and we're out. I look back when I was 6 years old in this incarnation, and I can think back and capture those moments as if they were yesterday or today. And here it's been 65 years. It's but a blink of an eye. You are source. You're not a soul finding its way back to source. That's not true. Absolutely not true. You are source forgetting itself temporarily to experience self in a way that it could never do otherwise. Know that your love transcends all things. Gorkalupa's adventure. Yeah. I like to be able to, I wrote and animated that draft. It wasn't a complete book. Well, it's a complete book, but it was a draft because it needed to be redone before it could be published. But I wanted to make and still do, like for it to be manifested into a video series, Gorkalupa's Adventure. It was a children's book that I wrote. I didn't see too many children's cartoons and stuff and books that made much sense to me because they didn't really teach much of anything, especially over the last 4 years. They've been putting out some really weird stuff. But the idea of morality. Yeah, 36912. That's why Tesla referred to that. This will be the 36912. We're thinking of pulses. So this is what Tesla experimented with. I'm reading what Daphne's writing in the chat. She went from Gorkalupa's Adventure to 36912. Yeah, so it's like this. It's groups of 3s and groups of 6, groups of 9s, groups of 12s. Within music, you'll see that used, as far as like groups of like this would be a group of 5. Okay, so it'd be that's 1. That's 5 and 2. 5 and 2. So I'll repeat that. So that's 5. Then that's 2. So that's a group of 5 and 2, right? And what Tesla was referring to was groups of 3. So that's a frequency, meaning it's a pulse. It's a rhythm, right? Right? And or 6 would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Or groups of 3, like 1, 2, 3. And repeating it again, 6, then repeating it again, and that's 9. And again, you know, 3 more gives you 12. So you can see this within the Keylontic science in regard to the Kathara and the gate system, which is within you, blah, 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 blah. Okay. All these things. So when you're doing something, let's make it practical. When you're doing something, that's the reason why if you use like an affirmation or something within you, I have the tendency to either do it twice or do it 3 times. I'll say something 3 times, or I'll sing something 3 times, or I'll sing it twice. I know what it means when I do that. Okay? 2 means witness of the, which bears witness of the truth. That's why I use 2. And it's automatic when I do it. And 3 is the complete, is a completion. Right? Trinity, divinity, right? So be it. You know, hate to use that expression because of where it originated from. But again, here's semantics used within here. It's the meaning that you put to them, not what something else has determined for you to believe in or not believe in. So I can take a word like understanding, and for me it means something different than certain people within the New Age because the language changes. Oh, you got to say it this way now. No, I don't, because I know what I mean. I know what the intention is. Well, nothing happens to us. I know that's semantics too, but it's truth. Nothing happens to us. We're the author of whatever happens. So it's not happening to you, you're causing it. And again, no condemnation. You know? No condemnations like, oh, I'm missing out, or I'm not doing this, oh, I need to align myself with this. Again, if you have joy with if there's joy with what you're doing, and there's a desire to do whatever you're doing, then that's good. You know, I've done a lot of things where it's just been working to do it, like a lot of people. And you can get caught up in the work and get disconnected from it. And this world has kind of set us up to do that. But in truth, we don't have to do that. And that's been one of my struggles for me, is because of, without getting into too many things here, but I grew up with I didn't grow up with lack in my mind. I did not grow up with lack in my heart, but it was something that I was conformed to because the conditions around me. Eventually, there's a thing that is put off onto you to say, okay, here's what's happening, and this is what everybody else believes, and then you start to believe what everybody else believes because you're kind of forced in, it's seemingly you're forced into that mode of belief, conditionally, based on conditions. So I carried with me a lot of improper thinking, creating my world, you know. Yeah, yeah. So I'm digressing a bit, and it's important to realize if if, and I'm only saying it this way because I want to bring this thought home to myself as well as to others who may be listening. If you are source that has chosen to experience self differently and temporarily forget in order to experience themselves this way, in order so that creation can be approached from a completely different perspective, then in truth, you temporarily forgetting is temporarily suspending that you have everything. And when you start to realize that you are source, that there is no lack. That's only been an illusion, and that's been a conditioning based on conscious perception or conscious conditioning. And that is based, again, in regard to the incarnate experience. We're having a symbiotic relationship with this body that we're in. This body that I call Randy is not who I am, it's who I'm experiencing myself through. When I fell out of the crib at 6 months old, I was gone for a year and a half, and then I came back into the body a year and a half later when it was 2 years old. It survived perfectly fine without me being there. This is a symbiotic relationship. But in truth, I being source, you being source, if we truly embrace that and truly believe that, all these other things kind of fall away. And I think the time that we're in right now is for that to happen. One of the reasons for the blocking of the skies is because of that photosphere, what we call the sun, which is a gate, which is a frequency modulator. It's a transformer of frequency and voltage. You measure light by voltage, and what's coming through it is looked to be blocked. And that's the reason why they're putting these heavy metals and barium and all these different things that they're putting in the sky in order to refract what's coming through. But it can't. So, with that being said, let's say to ourselves, let me say to myself, we have no lack. We hold all things, we have all things at our disposal for the purpose and the benefit of all life. And with that awareness and that knowing, we make ourselves available to one another as we are able, and letting our yes be yes about what we do, and let our no be no about what we do. Let's be authentic and self-reflective concerning that choice of yes and no. So if you say you're going to do something, do it. Even if you don't want to do it after you said you did it, you do it anyhow. You fulfill your oath to yourself. So be careful what you say. Know what you're saying, and then act on it. That is one of the levels of maturation or maturity that we need to come to, for sure. We need to be accountable to what we do. So therefore, let us be clear about what we say. Let it be yes, therefore it's yes. Let it be no, therefore it's no. But know it before you say it. Be clear with yourself. It's interesting. I look at the biblical record, and there's certain things that Yeshua said that I subscribe to as authentically being said by Yeshua. And this is where I get this from. Let your yes be yes, and let your no be no. Anything less than that is evil. Do you understand that? You know what that means? Why he would say that? Do you have understanding concerning that? Anything less is evil. Because it gives anything in between that wishy-washiness, allows for chaos. It allows for other things to come in and conflict with the situation. Other entities, other aspects that are within a fallen consciousness state to come in and enter into that and obscure it. When you're clear about what you're doing, It doesn't matter circumstantially of what's going on around you. If you said yes, it's yes. Nothing's going to sway what you just got done saying because you know the reason why you said yes, and it's very clear. And if you said no, you know the reason why you said no, and it's very clear. It leaves no room for conflict. It leaves no room for chaos. It leaves no room for anything else to come in because no other room is given for it. When you're in between, when you say something and then you don't follow through on that, all kinds of things can come into that and interfere with that. Start spinning your head, things start talking to you. That doesn't benefit anybody. And it certainly doesn't benefit you. And there's nothing that you do that doesn't affect everything around you. So, accountability to self. All right. Okay. Pick 4. Right. There was a bigger one I wanted to go to here real quick. And then I'm going to close out because I'm just rambling on and I'm talking to myself mostly. Trying to remind myself. So this is you can see the pole there. Of course, this is a different picture and different location. But that's a dual light right there. Okay. And you can tell that it is. And here's a side-by-side of a smaller and a bigger close-up of this. Let me see if I can make this bigger so you can get a better, let's see here. Not that. There it is. I'm going to make this a bit bigger so you can actually see it better. Right. Okay. You don't need to see me. There we go. Is that better? You see how it... Now, this is the same picture as... It's just a different shot. It's taken in a different frame, but it's the same exact thing. Let me see if I can go back to it. Oh, nope. Nope, not that one. Thing keeps moving around. Can't get a... Yucky, yuck, yuck. Okay. Oh, well. I can't seem to get this thing going. Anyhow, the one, I think this is what's underneath it, but let me move this out of the way a bit so you can see. Yeah, okay, there we go. That works. I thought that's what it was. Hard to tell. All right, so yeah, as you can see, it's the same. This is the same object. So, what do you people think this is? I think Daphne and I thought it to be a portal. Now, there's a difference between a gate and a portal. All right? So a stargate, which is referred to as a stargate, and stargate is really probably not the better word to use for it, but that's what's used. But there's a difference between a gate and the portal. Portal is something that occurs horizontally within a realm or field, or in this case, you can think of it as within this octave or harmonic universe. So a portal is something that occurs horizontally within the field. A gate is something that occurs multidimensionally within the field, or the extended aspect of the field, which you can think of as other dimensions. So that's vertical. So a portal is horizontal. It's occurring within the same realm. A gate is occurring vertically to be able to move out of this realm through. And again, it's a frequency modulator. So that's a gate. That's a better word. That's a better word than Stargate, is frequency modulator, because that's what it is. So anyhow, that's the same picture. I mean, it's the same object, different picture. Alrighty, so I'm going to go back to full screen here. Hello. All right, folks. Daphne, you got anything you want to add, Daphne? Okay. All right. Nope. All right. There it is. All right, folks.